What makes an MVP? Is it all about the points per game? Is it win shares? Is it about making history? Or maybe something else? Every year, as sports teams around the world end their seasons, there's always a discussion about who should be the MVP and who should not. In the WNBA, the MVP award is given to the player who has the most outstanding performance in a regular season, and that's voted by a panel of media members. The criteria for the award is not clearly defined, but some factors that are often considered are individual statistics, team success, impact on both ends of the floor, and historical significance. In this video, we will take a look at the 2023 MVP race for the WNBA, and we're going to examine some of the cases for the top three candidates: A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces, Breanna Stewart of the New York Liberty, and Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun. But before we get into the current season, let's take a trip down memory lane and recap the last 10 years of WNBA MVPs. In 2013, Candace Parker won the MVP with the Los Angeles Sparks. In 2014, it was Maya Moore with the Minnesota Lynx. In 2015, it was Elena Delle Donne when she was with the Chicago Sky. In 2016, it was Nneka Ogwumike with the LA Sparks. In 2017, it was Sylvia Fowles with the Minnesota Lynx. In 2018, it was Breanna Stewart with the Seattle Storm. In 2019, it was Elena Delle Donne, this time with the Washington Mystics. In 2020, it was A'ja Wilson with the Las Vegas Aces. In 2021, it was Jonquel Jones with the Connecticut Sun. And last year, in 2022, it was A'ja Wilson with the Las Vegas Aces. In taking a look at these last 10 winners, there are some patterns that emerge. The MVP usually goes to a player from a top three team in the regular season standings. Also, the MVP usually goes to a power forward or center who can score and rebound at a high level. There was only once in the last decade that the MVP did not go to a power forward or center, and that was Maya Moore when she won in 2014. Also, the MVP award goes to a player who averages at least 18 points a game, and in the last 10 years, there was only one exception to that. That was Candace Parker, who averaged 17.9 points per game when she won in 2013. And while these factors are not definitive or deterministic, they do show, I think, some of the factors that might influence this year's MVP winner. Of course, each season is always different. And also, if you're wondering, the votes have already been cast for the WNBA MVP already. That was done at the end of the season, and nothing that players are doing in the playoffs is a factor at all to who will eventually be announced as the WNBA MVP. And that decision will be made tomorrow on September the 26th. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look at this year's top contenders. A'ja Wilson is the reigning MVP from 2020 and 2022, and she has had an amazing regular season. And for A'ja, it really was a tale of two halves, before and after the All-Star break, or to put it another way, before and after Candace Parker got injured. Before the All-Star break, A'ja Wilson was averaging 19.7 points a game, 9.3 rebounds, 2.1 blocks a game, which was very, very good. But that pales in comparison to what she did after the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, she led the league with 26.2 points a game, to go along with 9.7 rebounds a game and 2.3 blocks. So a huge step up after the All-Star break. And it's not just the points that she's scoring, it's how efficient she is doing it. This year she had a career best 55% shooting from the field, which is really, really amazing. Also, if you remember, A'ja Wilson had a historic 53-point game. She tied Liz Cambage for the single game scoring record. Just really phenomenal play from A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson really is one of those players who's just dominant in the paint. She's either going to make the bucket or she's going to get to the free throw line. And many times she's doing both. And that is just something that teams just can't really compete with. A'ja Wilson is dominant in the WNBA. And it's clear that teams can't really stop her at all. And not just is she a beast sort of on the offensive end, but she's a beast on the defensive end as well. She's had she averaged 2.2 blocks this season and 1.4 steals. And she's only been playing 30 minutes a game. And for her defensive efforts, A'ja was announced as the Defensive Player of the Year. And this is an award that she won last year as well. So she is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and also the reigning MVP. So A'ja Wilson, without a doubt, is one of the best players in the WNBA. And especially after that Candace Parker injury, she is the reason why the Aces finished the season in the number one spot. A'ja for sure has a chance to possibly lock up her third MVP. And yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. All right, so now that we talked a little bit about A'ja Wilson, and there's way more that I can say about A'ja Wilson, but I won't at this moment because then the video is just going to be forever. Let's move on to Breanna Stewart, another former MVP winner. Breanna Stewart finished the regular season second in the league in scoring, averaging a career best 23 points a game. She scored at least 40 points a game 4 times this season, the most ever in a single season for the WNBA. And to really, really hammer this home, Stewart produced 11.4% of the 40-point games in league history in this season alone. So there's not that many 40-point games in the WNBA, and this season, Breanna Stewart has 11% of them. So that's showing that obviously Stewie is a huge deal when it comes to scoring. And I would say not only is she a good scorer, but Stewie is a playmaker as a forward. She finished the season with 3.8 assists per game, and the only WNBA player that is 6'4" or taller that has a similar stat line is Satu Sabally. And since Stewie does so much playmaking, you would think that maybe she has a significant amount of turnovers, but she doesn't. This year, Stewie became the second player in league history to play at least 34 minutes a game and only average 1.5 turnovers or fewer. And while Stewie isn't known as an elite defender, she's definitely no slouch. Since she is so mobile as a defender, she can easily switch on guards, and she does a solid job of defending without fouling. Stewie is just one of those players that can score from just about anywhere on the floor. You can have her shoot some threes. She can shoot in the paint. She can get some mid-range shots. And if you watch all of Stewie's games, you would know that she is the reason why the New York Liberty is in their second place standing. Like Stewie, especially to start the season, she was the end-all be-all for this team. And if it wasn't for her, the New York Liberty, yes, they would have made the playoffs, but they probably would have been 4th or 5th in the standings instead of being in second place. Breanna Stewart is definitely one of the best players in the WNBA, and she has a strong, strong case to win her second MVP award. And just as a FYI, Stewie has already won the 2023 AP Player of the Year award. So we'll see if she also adds the MVP to her hardware for this year. All right, now let's move on to Alyssa Thomas. So Alyssa Thomas is for sure a dark horse candidate for this MVP because there's been a lot of talk about Breanna Stewart and A'ja Wilson. And yes, some talk about Alyssa Thomas, but like way less talk about Alyssa Thomas as the MVP. And I think that's because she's on the third place Connecticut Sun team. Connecticut is a team that is not as flashy as New York or Vegas. Also, Alyssa Thomas is not known as a scoring powerhouse, but she has had a phenomenal season this year. The thing that really makes Alyssa Thomas so special is her ability to do everything that her team needs her to do. She can score. She is an elite facilitator. She can get some rebounds, and she is also an elite defender. And she really is the end-all, be-all for her team. And when it comes to historical significance, Alyssa Thomas has done something that no other WNBA player has ever done. She racked up 6 triple doubles this season. That's right, I said 6. And maybe that probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But before this year, triple doubles were pretty rare in the WNBA. In 27 years of the WNBA, there has only been a total of 30 triple double performances ever recorded. And Alyssa Thomas has 10 of them. And 6 this season. This is a big deal. And by the way, she also had 27 double-doubles this season as well. Another WNBA single season record. This season, Alyssa Thomas also set the single season record for assists with 316. And remember, guys, Alyssa Thomas is basically a power forward. Though she's mainly been kind of being a center of sorts ever since Breanna Jones got injured early in the season. Alyssa Thomas is doing all of that as a post player. The only person who rivals that number of assists is Courtney Vandersloot. I think she has 314 total assists for this past season. And she's a point guard. And Alyssa Thomas has 316 assists as a forward. Like, I couldn't really find data to prove this, but I feel like I don't think there's ever been a time in the past for the WNBA where there've ever been a post player that has had this much of an impact when it comes to assists. Like, she's just doing a phenomenal, and I would say like hugely historically significant job this season when it comes to assists. And also, she's been doing her thing on the rebounds as well. She also led the league in total rebounds this season with 394. And for reference, A'ja Wilson had 380 and Breanna Stewart had 371 total rebounds, that is. And with all that being said, Alyssa averaged 15.5 points a game, putting her 19th in the league. And for reference, Breanna Stewart averaged 23 points a game, and she was in second place in the WNBA. First place went to Jewel Lloyd, who is Breanna Stewart's former teammate in Seattle. A'ja Wilson averaged 22.8 points this season, and she was in third place. So you have 19th placed Alyssa Thomas versus number 2 and number 3 in scoring. And remember when I called Alyssa Thomas an elite defender? Yeah, that's because she is. She came in second place this year in the Defensive Player of the Year award vote. And that's because Alyssa Thomas is a relentless defender who can guard any position on the floor. And she's just so active and mobile where, you don't really want to be coming down the court and you got Alyssa Thomas on you. She's just a really great defender, as well as being a great playmaker. And Alyssa Thomas is the sole reason, the main reason I would say, why Connecticut is number 3 in the league. She has carried this team on her broken shoulders all season, and has really put on a show. And from watching her play this season, I think Alyssa certainly is one of the best players in the league, and she has for sure made a strong case to win her first MVP award. All right, so we just went through some of the cases for A'ja, Stewie, and Alyssa. Yes, there's a lot more to say about all 3 of these players, but I just wanted to highlight some things that I found probably most notable. But yes, in the comments, let me know if there's stuff that I missed that I should have talked about that you would also use to make the case for, whoever you would choose as the MVP. I want to kind of now take the time to talk through my philosophy around the MVP vote and let you know who I would have picked if I actually had a vote. All right, so here are my qualifications. So 1, you need to be on a team with a top 4 record for the regular season, which seems very reasonable, I would say. 2, you need to have done something or many things out of the ordinary and or historic. Number 3, you need to have been the most valuable player on your team for the entire league. Basically what that means is, yes, there's players who may have been the most talented in the league and whatnot, but You need to be a player that was the most valuable for your actual team. I don't know if that actually makes any sense, but a player who basically, if they're not on the court, your team loses. Basically, you need to be that type of player. So yeah, those are my criteria. And as you can tell, I have no criteria about points per game, rebounds, assists, efficiency rating. Like I don't care much about that. What I do care about is, are you on one of the top teams in the league? Have you done something like historic? And are you truly the most critical piece on your team? Those three things to me are my criteria. And now with that being said, let's kind of talk about who I would pick if I had a vote. So if I had a vote for the MVP, my number one pick would be Alyssa Thomas as WNBA MVP for this season. And the reason why I say that Alyssa is my number one is because, one, yeah, she's on the top 4 team. She also has done a bunch of stuff that has never been done before. You know, look at her triple-double stuff. Look at her double-double stuff, 27 double-doubles, 6 triple-doubles. And the fact that she is leading the entire league as a power forward in assists. Like, that is pretty much unheard of. That is out of the ordinary and also historic. Yes, A'ja Wilson and Stewie have also had historic seasons. They've been phenomenal. What Breanna Stewart has been able to do, scoring so many 40 points games and like really being a key player for her team, like, has been phenomenal to watch. Also, A'ja Wilson is also doing A'ja Wilson things and just scoring the bucket. And just, you know, she's one of those players who I think is the best player that I've seen in a very long time master getting fouled. She is able to draw fouls like I don't think I've seen in a long time or ever seen in the WNBA. Yeah, she's been phenomenal. A'ja Wilson and Stewie have been really, really great this season. But from a historical perspective, I think Alyssa Thomas has done more. And she's done more stuff that is just sort of out of the ordinary, especially for her player type. And finally, with that last criteria that I talked about in terms of the player who is most critical for their team, I think truly if it wasn't for AT, I don't even think the Connecticut Sun make the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs, they're like an 8 seed. This is no shade at all to Connecticut's roster, but if you take AT off their team, they don't really have a chance. Like, they just don't. And I don't believe that that is the case for the Aces or the Liberty. Yes, A'ja Wilson is the engine for the Las Vegas Aces. But if she's not there, the Vegas Aces still make the playoffs. You know, they're probably a 4 or 5 seed or maybe 6 seed in the playoffs. But they still make it, whether or not A'ja Wilson is on their team or not. Yes, she is phenomenal. Yes, she is the core for this team. But to me, the wheels don't fall apart if Asia's gone. Yes, you know, the car is moving slow and the car has a check engine light on, but it's not, like, it's still moving, I would say. To me, that's not the case if you take AT off of the Connecticut Sun. Same thing for Stewie. Stewie is an amazing player. She is. She has been for the New York Liberty. And she is their number one option, their number one player. Yes, absolutely. But if you take Breanna Stewart off of the New York Liberty, I still believe that they still would have made the playoffs, maybe at a 4 or 5 seed, or maybe 6 again. They're still a very good team because of the roster that they have. You still have Jonquel Jones on the team. You still have Courtney Vandersloot. You still have Sabrina Ionescu. You still have Benijah Laney. You still have key players for the Liberty, and you know the Aces. They still have they still have Kelsey Plum. They still have Chelsea Gray. They still have Jackie Young. They still have huge players that can show up and make some noise. I don't think that's the case for the Connecticut Sun. I don't think that they really have what it takes to make it to the playoffs if it's not for Alyssa Thomas. And that's my opinion. Y'all may say otherwise, and I would love to hear y'all thoughts. But to me, it truly is about who is the most critical player for their team, and that's Alyssa Thomas. It just is. Though I will say, while I would vote for Alyssa Thomas for the MVP, I don't think Alyssa Thomas wins it. I don't think she wins it, and here's why I don't think she wins it. It's because she's kind of like a gritty, hard-nosed kind of player who isn't flashy. She's not as flashy as A'ja Wilson or Stewie. She's kind of boring. She kind of just gets the job done, and just kind of moves on. She's not like as visible. She's not a recognizable name at all. She isn't even close to a top scorer. Like, I remember, she's number 19 in the league in scoring. And when it comes to MVPs, usually the MVPs are like a top scorer, and she's not. And I think to me, that's a huge difference. Also, she is considered by a significant amount of people as being a bit of a dirty player at times. And I think that also will hinder her as well. So because of those things, I don't think she wins the MVP. I don't. The MVP award is going to be announced tomorrow on September the 26th. And when it's all said and done, I think A'ja Wilson will win the MVP. And yes, she deserves it. They all three of these players deserve to win the MVP. But, there can only be one. Even though, there's other players who are phenomenal this season. Breanna Stewart is having an MVP season. She had an MVP season. A'ja Wilson had an MVP season. Alyssa Thomas had an MVP season. I think Asia's going to win it. That'll be kind of cool to see, a player win back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards and back-to-back MVP awards. That'll be kind of cool to see. That's my opinion. Maybe Breanna Stewart wins. She did win the AP, but to me, I don't put much stock on AP. They've kind of been very strange about who they've selected for the rookie, the all rookie team I wouldn't say this year, but like in previous years, they've kind of picked some weird people for that. So I don't put much stock in what AP says in terms of like who they think is the best player. Yeah. I think it goes to A'ja, or maybe it goes to Breanna. I don't think Alyssa wins, and it's kind of a bummer because I think if Alyssa does not win the MVP, I think her historical season will likely be forgotten in time, because truly the only thing that really is remembered about regular seasons are the awards that players get, and so I think if she doesn't get the MVP, even though she's had a historical season on many levels, I think eventually her name gets forgotten in time, and 10 years down the road, no one remembers Alyssa Thomas. That's my opinion, at least. But guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. I kind of gave you my thoughts for who was going to be, who I would vote for the MVP, and who I actually think is going to win the MVP. But let me know your thoughts. Is the winner Breanna Stewart? Is it A'ja Wilson? Is it Alyssa Thomas? Let me know, and let me know why. And also, I would love it if you can share your criteria, like your top three, things that would determine who the MVP award goes to. Let me know. I would love to read that in the comments, and let's just have a discussion about MVPs in general. Like, yeah, some years it's more controversial than others, and I feel like this year is going to be one of those controversial years. Yeah, let me know y'all thoughts. I really want to have a deep discussion about this in the comment section. All right, thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please let me know by hitting the like button. It really helps bring more people to the channel. And thank y'all so much for making it to the end of this video as well. This is a very long one. And so thank y'all for rocking with me to the end. Also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. I make content about the WNBA, women's college basketball, sometimes high school basketball, USA basketball, anything related to women's basketball, I try to cover it. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe to this channel. Thank y'all again so much for watching. And until next time, guys. Bye.